another time?
No, I'm fine, mate. No problem at all. Nice to hear from you. I hope.
Yeah. Well, Rick asked me to ring you because he said you'd mentioned to him a couple of letters from Tom Kelly.
Oh right. Well, I mean,
in a similar vein.
Quite how relevant they are, I don't know quite what I can do with them. But I mean, when we had our problem in 2 years ago, and we've got the same problem again at the moment.
What problem was that?
Well, what happened 2 years ago was that in the weekend between Christmas and the New Year, there were betting patterns that certain on some of our races that the betting shops didn't like.
Right.
And so we got reported to the gambling. The betting shops are now not bookmakers, really, as you know, and they didn't like it, so it went on. And for the first time ever, if you remember, they held an inquiry. The Gambling Commission had never held an inquiry into greyhound racing. And they realised shortly after that it was nonsense. So they turned it into, let's have a regulatory inquiry to see how greyhound stadiums operate. Right. And then they found the Gary Wiltshire business and all that crap, which was nothing to do with us again at all.
Yeah.
And they fired a warning shot across the bows of all greyhound stadiums that the formation and the calculation of the SPs at the tracks was frail or fragile. Which it is, as you know, because the SPs are made at the track by three little, and I don't mean this unkindly to the bookmakers, but three little local tin pot bookmakers who've got no crowd there more often than not, make the prices up that go around the country to 9,000 betting shops, which, whatever way you look at it, is a nonsense. A total nonsense.
Well, they don't seem to complain a lot when they send somebody in to get the price down, to cut the liabilities, do they?
No, but that's what they do. That's what they do. No. I mean, this is the point. And we've had the same happen last weekend, just by chance. And bookies lost £60,000 on doubles and trebles, which they'd got on under £5 stakes by going round. This group, the office, Gary Noble and his mob. They've got putters honors, and they just put the money on and they won.
Right.
And so, of course, we were up at Bags yesterday. That's another issue. But the point was, if you go back, Tom Kelly was actually the man in charge, and I knew Tom Kelly pretty well.
Yeah.
And so we get reported. We do the reports to Bags, of which Tom Kelly was the main man. And I walked into work one day and found this very, very unpleasant letter, which said, basically, that I understand that you have said inappropriate things to the Gambling Commission about this, that and the other, blah, 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 and I want a letter back within 6 days to say you didn't say this, or if you did, how you know this, that and the other. Now, at the time, you see, this is his typical bully boy technique, because, we had a Bags contract.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't really exist without a Bags contract, let's be honest about it, not really. I mean, we could just about do a Coventry or something, but we can't really exist properly at a proper greyhound stadium without that sort of money.
Yeah.
Particularly now, as Racing Post Greyhound TV have taken away the rest of the punters in the ring.
Yeah.
So I mean, the book betting shops have ruined racing, really. So, and this was bully boy stuff. Well, we replied in reasonable terms, but I was furious about it, especially then. And I don't know what you can do. I don't really know how you can bring this out. He clearly had been to the Gambling Commission himself.
Right.
And I think because, I mean, it just gives you a picture. I mean, the fact of the matter is, he then phoned me up and said, I just thought I would tell you, Roger, that I've been to the Gambling Commission and blah, 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 and it mumbles away. And I said, what's the problem? Well, I gave them the report on the racing from your racing manager, but I didn't give them the report that you sent me, which was basically me being critical of the betting shops, quite frankly, and various other things. I said, all right, Tom, what do you want me to do about it? He said, well, you have to do what you have to do. You have to do what you think you should do, which is basically telling me, don't give them it.
Yeah.
Or else. And, of course, we subsequently, it went on, the inquiry, and then it's quite clear what had happened. He had committed giving a meeting to Wimbledon.
Right.
And he quite clearly thought he'd take one away. We had 3. he'd take one away from us on the back of an adverse gambling commission result.
Right.
Well, when it came out, the actual gambling commission result wasn't bad, but they then sent a press release out which was terrible. It was terribly ambiguous, and we took legal action. And in the end, when Tom said he was going to take away a meeting, we pointed out through our solicitors that he couldn't do so, and he was furious. I mean, I'd threatening, horrible phone calls on my phone and messages, and he couldn't do it. But we all knew, this was last August, the August before, and we all knew that when it comes to the end of the year, they can actually reduce your contract by 20%.
Right.
And of course, the bastard did with 2 days' notice. 2 days' notice. So there we are, all set for the new year. And on December the 3rd, he phones me on a mobile and says, "Roger, just thought I'd courtesy call. I thought I'd let you know you won't be on Saturdays from June last year, Derby time." Why? Well, we can do it. I know you can do it, Tom, but why? Yeah. So he said, "Well, we just can do it." And I said, "Yes, but Tom, anyone decent would have phoned up. We would have had discussions about it." And his comment before he put the phone down was, "Well, you better put me down as not being decent. Goodbye." So this is the man you're dealing with, and I've warned Ricky right the way through.
Yeah.
Right the way through. This is a nasty, nasty man.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
He's a bully boy. So, right, how did he get where he is? I'm telling you more than you probably wanted to hear. But
No,
I might as well tell you while you're on.
Yeah.
So, okay, now look, obviously I'm biased because I run my track. So here's the scenario. I'm a director of the promoters.
Yeah.
And I fall out with Tom Kelly, obviously, and everyone said it's a personality thing.
Yeah.
You and him. I mean, I've been doing this for over 50 years, for Christ's sake. I've been around for a long while. I've seen 50 tracks close in my time, so I know what happens.
Yeah.
Well, was it a personality thing? Well, I used to get on all right with Tom Kelly before that. In fact, we went out to lunch and things,
Yeah.
and talked dogs and talked how we could do things,
Yeah.
So it was very, very odd how this happened. But he'd obviously made a commitment to Wimbledon, i.e. Clive Felton, to give them a meeting. And I know that happened around the April of last year. I found out subsequently. And when it got round to... Tom decided to phone me up sort of May, June, July, getting desperate. What's the result of the Gambling Commission? Well, we're okay, Tom, we're okay. And eventually, when this terrible press release came out, he said, right, well, we're going to take you off. You can't. So he couldn't. So he had to go back to Wimbledon, and they obviously thought they were going to be on the service from about September the previous year.
Right.
Yeah. And they weren't. So, but now he's obviously he's made some arrangement, some deal. I mean, he said it was just to give Wimbledon a leg up. It seemed a bit odd because everyone knew they were going to close in any case. So what then happens? Well, we get to the promoters' annual general meeting in December, where they're voting for the first time for 3 years for the re-election of the directors. And at the meeting, I mean, there were 6 directors, of which I was one, and I was the one who wasn't on the board of the GBGB or the BGRF.
Right.
Which is fine. That's fine about them. But I was in on every conference call and everything. So they have the shambolic election organised by the secretary of the promoters, and it was shambolic, whereby they have this rather odd voting system where they vote 3 in first who go on the GBGB, then a 4th one who is the extra one who sits on the BGRF, and then the extra 2 who are just there.
Right.
But Clive reduced the number from 6 to 5.
Why?
Well, here, exactly. Why? Well, right. So, and there were 7 people. So there were the 6 incumbents plus 1 extra, which was John Gilbert.
Yeah.
And everyone's going on about the amount of work. And I said over the table, well, firstly, I don't, and bear in mind I was a director, and I hadn't been consulted as a director, nor had I seen a minute or a vote to reduce the 6 to 5.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I don't understand why you're doing this, Clive. And I've known Clive, I think my dad gave him his first job, right? So I've known him for years. I don't know why you're doing this. And might I suggest that as we have the power to do this, and there are 7 people. Why don't we elect all 7? Because there's a lot of work to be done, and the extra one being John Gilbert. And Clive went apeshit. I mean, it was funny, really. I mean, everyone was looking at him like, and he doesn't normally do that.
Right.
And I'm the only one that ever faced up to him in any case. And he goes, no, well, we don't want 7, Hands up, who thinks we shouldn't have 7? It's far too many, it's far too unwieldy. And, of course, you've got a lot of bloody promoters who just go, yeah, and put their hand up.
Yeah.
And
what was the thinking behind that, then?
What, not to have 7?
Yeah.
It's too unwieldy. I mean, absolute bollocks, because we had conference calls every week.
Yeah.
You know, nothing to do with it. Absolute bollocks. I mean, it was bollocks. So, but then, of course, within that gets lost the fact that, okay, we're not going to have 7, because I'd only suggested it there and then, but they vote for 5. And I thought, right, okay, I can see what he's doing here. He didn't want me back on.
Yeah.
He didn't want Billy from Glasgow back on, because Billy is so rude to him, it was funny.
Right.
I mean, we used to slug him off terribly. And he didn't really want John Gilbert to get on, because John Gilbert used to work for him.
Right.
And he knew what John Gilbert was about, and he'd been pretty outspoken. But it was obvious that one of those 3 had to get on. Well, they do the first vote for the 3, and I didn't want to be on that one, so I wasn't there. And they do the next one for the extra one, which I was up for, and I didn't get it. And then I thought, I don't want to go for the 3rd level of voting, so I said, I'm out,
right.
You know, because I could see what was happening.
Yeah.
And Billy got on by 1 vote, and John Gilbert didn't.
Yeah, subsequently they've fobbed him off, haven't they, by letting him be first reserve for any director.
No, but he is a director now. No, but what then happens is after. So now I'm off. Why am I off? Well, there's 2 things here. Let's go. So, but after Christmas, mainly because John Curran got annoyed about it all, they go back up to 6, and John Gilbert gets on.
So he's actually on there now, then?
Yes.
As well as being a standing director for the GBGB.
Well, he's a standing director. He's an alternate for the GBGB.
Yeah.
As an alternate for one of the 4, because it's now 4. Because when when you guys got a position there, the GTA directorship, the promoters got 1 extra as well.
And did the directorship that Ricky got?
Yeah.
Did Maurice Watkins do that on purpose?
No, the promoters did that, I think, you're fine.
Yeah, but I had to go and, this time last year, or December time, I had to go and meet Maurice Watkins to put forward Ricky as a nomination, because we ended up sending him a solicitor's letter telling him that if they didn't do the nomination properly and they just accepted John Haynes, then we were going to have to be forced to take action against them. And subsequently, Maurice Watkins asked me and somebody from the FBGOA, which that Tony Matthews went, to go to the GBGB officers and speak on behalf of who we'd nominated. And it was then that he decided that it would be better if we both had a nomination. But I got the impression that because he was leaving, he did it on purpose, that he didn't really want Ricky on there, but he did it on purpose just to get back at him when he was leaving. I might be wrong.
Get back at who?
Get back at the other directors and give Tom Kelly subsequently Tom Kelly.
Well, I don't know. You know, we'd been trying to get the promoters, because I was still on it until December. We'd been trying to get Morris off because he'd done absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, he was quite a nice bloke, but he hadn't done anything.
Yeah.
And we've been trying to get him off a year early from the previous year. Well, we didn't succeed. We got him off when he was due to get off, but we stopped him going for re-election.
Right.
My view is that, and this is where I came off, so I think the promoters themselves thought that perhaps they should allow the GTA a seat, but only on the basis that the promoters themselves got an extra seat.
Got you.
So that's what happened. So I don't really know who was the main, possibly even John Curran at the time. I know he's fallen out with him now, but it might have been John Curran at the time.
Yeah.
Because John Curran's the only other one who's a sort of actual greyhound bloke.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, the way that Ricky was treated at that meeting, and the way that Tom Kelly allowed that to happen, it's disgusting. There's no room for that in 2016.
Of course, it's disgusting, and I know. Let me finish the story. So wait a minute. So no, I know, because it's a bit long-winded, but it gives you a lot of background.
Yeah.
So why was I got off the board? Well, the reason I was got off the board was because I would have objected to them putting Tom Kelly up.
Right.
So what happens is the promoters amongst us had decided that once Morris went,
Yeah.
because he was useless, that there shouldn't be a knee-jerk reaction from the GBGB to put any old person in.
Yeah.
We really wanted to get the right person, and that really, this was around December, we didn't really want to see an appointment till the spring.
Yeah.
So that due diligence could be done. So that was the theory. Now, what happened was this, that, and I know this happened, that within days there was a phone call because Clive Felton was chairman of the appointments committee.
Right.
So there was a phone call, and they agreed, the appointments committee, to put Tom Shields in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, he didn't know anything about this, really.
Right.
In fairness. So Tom Shields was put up. Now, that was totally contrary to what the promoters had said that Clive should do on behalf of the promoters.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't mean that wouldn't go through, but he didn't even make the case on behalf of the promoters that that's not what we want.
Yeah.
And indeed, if you read the Racing Post, they said Clive Felton was quoted as saying he was my choice.
Right.
But he wasn't the promoter's choice. It was a complete and utter lie.
Right.
A complete and utter lie. So they put him in. Well, what happens is that John Curran hears this,
Yeah.
and he heard exactly what he thought exactly what I and the others thought. But I'm off the board by now. So there's a board meeting of the GBGB, of which John Curran was now not a director, I don't think, because he didn't feel well. But he got on the train that night, went down there, and busted in on the meeting.
Right.
Right, seriously. I know this because he told me. Well, he got there first, and he found Rachel, Gordon, and Clive sitting in a corner, who were incredibly embarrassed when he arrived. And he said, "I don't know what you guys are doing. This isn't what we agreed, blah, blah, blah." Well, of course, what then happened was Tom Shields got hold of all this
Yeah.
and thought, well, I'm clearly not wanted. I mean, he wasn't party to this, to be fair to the guy, and said, well, in that case, I'm out.
Yeah.
So that's why you saw him appointed one day and out the next. But that was his own choice when he realised there was a furious row going on
wise
about it.
decision.
Very wise decision.
Yeah.
Now, in the between time, they've appointed the agents to the consultants to try and find someone and got the various people in. So where did Tom Kelly come from? Well, Tom Kelly, and this is where you can't quote me in any way, shape or form, didn't apply for the job, nor was he interviewed. This is my belief. But I believe he was phoned up by Clark Osborne.
Right. No.
Right?
Nige. Yeah, sorry. Carry on,
Clark Osborne obviously has gone into the background over the years, and he uses Bill Glass as his patsy.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And it's because Clark Osborne with his 2 votes and Clive with his 4 votes have 6 votes between them, plus Rachel's 1 vote is 7, and there's only 24 tracks. They have more than the majority needed to get anything changed, which is why you can never, ever get them out.
No.
It's wrong. It's probably, I mean, John Curran told me this. He'd looked it up illegally beforehand. It's called entrenchment, and it's against company law. And if somebody wanted to do anything, then they could. But I said, well, I'm having nothing to do with them because it's quite obvious that Clive had been lying. And so why is Tom in there? Well, is it a quid pro quo because they got a bags meeting? Did they get me out because they knew I'd object to it? Ask the questions. I don't know. I mean, it looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
So, then Tom Kelly gets in. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
It's outrageous. He knows nothing about greyhound. I get so annoyed about it. He knows nothing about it. And when he got an award last year for services to greyhound racing, I practically died.
Yeah.
He's actually been the man who has ruined greyhound racing. And the reason for I can say that is because I've been around many years ago when the promoters were actually together. They were fighting to get a much better contracts from Bags and the bookmakers. Yeah. And Bags split them.
Mm.
And
divide and rule.
by divide and rule.
Yeah.
And I remember the day, because I was quite new to bags at the time, and we went to the lunch at the Grosvenor House, and we were all going into the annual bags lunch, which they haven't had for years. And before we went in, we were asked to go into a side room. And as I walked in, Charles Chandler, who I grew up with, walked out. So I knew him, looking pretty grim-faced. And I was sat down at a table, given a piece of paper and a pen, and said, well, sign. And no, seriously, it's God's honest truth. And I said, the promoters were, they said, well, Charles Chandler, i.e. your chairman, has just signed.
Right.
So I signed.
And am I right?
That's where they split everyone, because they did deals with one or the other, and no promoter would not sign. Well, that's the start. I mean, I think Ricky thought I was a bit over the top about it. I said, this is a nasty, nasty man. Yeah. And then when I found that he was in the GBGB, I said, he can't work like he's always worked in an operation like the GBGB. But unfortunately, he's got Clive Felton there, who is, the guy that's got to go more than Tom in some respects is Clive Felton.
The whole lot's got to go. It's rotten to the core. The whole lot's got to go. It can't operate because there's just it's the sport or the industry of ground racing is failing because there is a total lack of any effective leadership.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing that Clive did, of course, years ago, was get his appointments committee put Barry Faulkner in.
Well, same again.
You've got to remember. Well, you've got to remember, Barry Faulkner was the signature. I was put off the bag service for 3 months in 2009, and it was the signature on that